Schools have been advised that children's drawings of religious figures, or indeed the human body, could be considered blasphemous. The advice was given out by Labour councils across the north of England. It's designed, they say, to help teachers adapt to religious sensitivities. They also warn that music and dance classes could be contrary to teachings in some religions. It adds that diversity in the classroom can be a great source of strength, but that schools will want to be flexible in catering for religious difference. Stephen Evans is CEO of the National Secular Society. Thanks for coming on the programme, Stephen. What's wrong with pointing out differences?
There's nothing wrong with being sensitive and being culturally aware. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And I have actually lots of sympathy with schools and workplaces, for that matter, who have to navigate some of these thorny issues around religious diversity. But sometimes I think we are just a little bit too fearful of stand up for liberal principles, and I think schools need to be careful not to over-accommodate religious sensitivities, especially where that risks pandering to the demands of some of the most fundamentalist groups in our society.
If I was asking children to draw pictures of Jesus in my religious studies class and a child said, actually, I don't want to do that, should the teacher be able to tell the child to do that?
I think it's up to the teacher to handle those situations. I think we have to give schools and teachers a fair amount of flexibility to do what they think is right in that situation. And if they do want to stand up for liberal principles or stand up for the equal treatment of children, then I think they need to know that the government and the Department for Education and the local educational authority will have their backs. And I think that's what they're worried about at the moment. There's lots of fear, there's lots of trepidation about handling religious diversity. And sometimes I just think we need to be a little bit more bold in standing up for common sense and teachers' best instincts.
If, in your religious studies class, Mr. Evans, a parent of a child said, I do not want my child seeing this image of this particular religious character, you can't show it to them, what would you want the teacher or the school to do?
I think schools are very good at handling these sort of disputes. They do it all the time, and I think it would involve a conversation with the parent, just to explain that this is part of the curriculum, this is what we're doing in this class, and why the teacher thinks it's important that every child should take part in it. There is a right of withdrawal from religious education, and so if the parent ultimately wants to, they can withdraw their child from religious education. But hopefully, I think schools are very good at avoiding those sort of circumstances. And I think it is absolutely fine for schools to make reasonable accommodations from time to time, and not wanting to cause offence. I think it's very understandable in principle. But what I don't think should happen is schools shouldn't feel pressured into excessive caution around these things. I think we need to be very aware that there are Islamist groups out there with fundamentalist beliefs who are sometimes very willing to exploit people's good nature and their desire not to cause offence, or their lack of knowledge around Islam, and use that to sort of push for the imposition of blasphemy-style restrictions. And I think there seems to be an element of that in some of the guidance that we've seen in the press today. But we just need to get the balance right. That's all. We need to get the balance right. Respect should not mean giving in to the most intolerant and fundamentalist of demands. This isn't Iran, this isn't Afghanistan.
Yes.
Of course, children can play music, they can draw three-dimensional pictures, they can dance, they can do drama, they can do physical education with the opposite sex. We've got to be very careful in trying to accommodate religious difference, that we don't end up imposing Islamic dogma on schools and on children.
One thinks of the incident at the Batley Grammar School, for sure. Thank you very much indeed for coming on. Stephen Evans is the CEO of the National Secular Society. Andre